deck, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group F3 Championship. This is round number 5 of the season, coming to you tonight from the Bend. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Dylan Coyle, with Joshua Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler. Well, Dylan, to continue on this season and bring you back after a trip to Ontario up there north of the border, we head off to one of the newer tracks here on the iRacing platform. The Bend was only introduced a couple of seasons ago, and ever since then it's been a strange trip, I would say. Every single time every racing series heads here, nobody really knows their way around the place, and doubly so considering we're running on the not very well used West configuration. This is probably going to be the biggest question mark for these racers for the entire season.
Yeah, you know, this is a racetrack that I have not had much experience broadcasting any races at either, so it's kind of a new endeavor for all of us to be a part of here at what is officially known as the Shell V-Power Motorsport Park. And that's, you know, I'm very intrigued, right? The Bend is not a circuit that I don't know, Ron, how much experience have you had there?
Well, I have only done one show here at this track, and I mean, bearing in mind that show was 5 hours long, so I guess that does make up for it. But that is the only broadcast I've ever done here, and it was on the GT layout, which uses, of course, this racetrack at the back end of it, but also uses a crap load more corners to make up the nearly 5-mile, 35-turn layout of that track. So this is a venture off into the unknown, I think, for the both of us as well, especially on this layout.
Yeah, 100%. Just over 2 miles in length, 3.4 kilometers. And, man, I'm starting to think of things, like you said, just coming back from Ontario, I'm thinking of things more in kilometers and kilometers per hour. Had to really reset my mind for that, and the rental car that I had to drive up there with. But nonetheless, all of it equates to some speed that we'll see from these drivers, because some of these straights, even though they are followed with and preceded by some quick, dare I say, bends, we're going to see a lot of speed in these cars, and a little bit of a dip right there in one of those mid-corner roundabouts. There's a cut through from the West Circuit here, and you know, it's crazy. The GT circuit, it's almost 5 miles long.
Yeah, that track is absolutely nuts. I remember when iRacing first revealed this track, I was like, what in the world is this place? And that was, I wouldn't say a shameful point for me, because I always loved keeping up with racetracks. I remember back in the day, I would make my own like fictional racetracks, and it was something I always enjoyed, and doubly so hearing about racetracks across the globe, and knowing nothing about this place when I first came onto iRacing. I was a little bit surprised when it first came to be a part of the service, but really looking forward to seeing what this race is going to be. Qualifying already in a rearview mirror, and as is usually the case, Stephen Case up at the top of the pole position for him here once again in this series. So he's going to be leading the field to green as we head off into the first race of the night, the 15-minute long sprint before the 25-minute long feature coming up. And let's get the festivities up and rolling by taking a look at the first starting grid of the night. It's going to be Stephen Case starting from the pole, Joshua Leslie in P2, Kalen Michaelwitz will start in third next to Christopher Egerton. Fourth, it's Alex Velasco in P5, Tyrone De Silva in P6, Max Lotto, a new driver here in the F3s, but someone who's really shown some pace in the F4s over the past couple of weeks, will start in P7 next to Danush Paborji. In P8, series admin Jason Cotcher will start in 9th. David Borden rounds out your top 10 with Joshua Bourne, Varun Bali in P11 and P12. Looking right behind, we've got Adam Duvall and Edgar Lau. It's Christopher Wang in P15, Justin Snyder in P16, Jose Navas in P17, Rafael Cardenas in P18. It's Aaron Van Wagner in 19th, Adrian Lopez in 20th, Jason Trantham in 21st, Thomas Brashear in 22nd, with Cooper Dillon and Jacob Guyn rounding out your 24-car starting grid here in this race. Knowing my luck, there we go. I was going to say, knowing my luck, we have more starters, but nope, 24 on the dot, a perfect 2 pages on the grid.
Very solid job there. We'll see if Case is going to be able to regain a little bit of the form that we had seen from him in the first 2 weeks, right? VIR and the Nürburgring. He both had wins, but only one podium in the last 2 races. Of course, it came in his previous start at Daytona, finished second there. But of course, Leslie took that win away. We'll see. Starting on pole is going to be a very, very solid way to start it out here. Of course, we've got the warm-up race, or I should say the sprint race. How would you like to call it?
I would say this is the sprints before the marathon. Just kind of getting
It's
the
not
juices
really a long
flowing.
marathon.
Yeah, you know, it's an odd marathon. You could either say that it's a short marathon or a very long sprint. It's basically running a half a marathon before you do the actual marathon. The green flag flies, so drivers are on their way. Drivers squirrely a little bit farther in the back, and we're racing here at the bend, nearly 4 wide as they head their way downtown to turn number 1. Look at Stephen Case trying to hold on to that top spot. It's been a tough time of things in the races themselves as of late, but it doesn't go well for him. He gets shown the door, goes off the track. He spins out the race lead with Leslie inheriting it.
Oh my goodness, it was some contact with the front left and the rear right of Josh Leslie, now in the lead of this race, looking to make it a win in 2 straight weeks of competition here in SRG F3. We'll take another look in a little bit, but that was, I would say, close, hard racing.
Yeah, close, hard racing ending in disaster all through the opening series of bends, and it's not going to end just yet. Spinning around, that's off through turn number 7, 8, I believe. That's a huge moment for the driver of the number 12. I believe that was Max Landlato, the newcomer, dropping down like an anvil, push out of a helicopter. Rough start for some racers all throughout this field, but a dream start for Josh Leslie, who leads over Kayla Michaelowicz. Contact made as they head their way into the turn once again. I believe that's Navas that's going to lose his rear wing. We're hearing that's Adrian Lopez who lost his front wing. That's going to be scary, seeing Navas run around the racetrack without a rear wing, and there he is into the pits.
Yeah, you saw a bunch of drivers already making their way down that pit lane on the exit of turn 12 here in the West Circuit. Lots of carnage, and look at this, almost 3 wide heading into this right-hand 90-degree turn 1. Goodness me, that could have been bad. It narrowed up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing about this racetrack. It is a little bit disjointed in the sense, we do have that shortcut to make this West configuration the West configuration, but you still have a lot of other parts of this racetrack that can make it challenging. Josh Leslie, Kayla Michaelowicz, they're currently battling for the top spots. Battling for the final podium is still intense. It is a train of cars from Tyrone De Silva running in P3 all the way back. You pretty much have to go back to Thomas Brashear at the tail end of this never-ending locomotive comprised entirely out of F3 machinery.
Yeah, and right now it's just the top 2 kind of breaking away from the rest of the field. Tyrone De Silva, we're paying attention to right there. Look at that gap. Only 2.5 minutes of action here in this 15-minute heat race. Kind of crazy.
Oh, it has been a wild start here, and it's not over yet. Josh Leslie and Kayla Michaelowicz continue to battle for the top spot. It was Leslie inheriting the race lead and muscling past Stephen Case in the early stages, and then Kayla Michaelowicz, he really never let him go away. He's kept him, I can't even say at an arm's distance. He's been pretty much at a fingertips distance. It's been very, very close between those racers really ever since the drop of the green flag. Taking a look at Stephen Case rejoining the racetrack with the driver passing by him with front wing damage already. There was the contact, side-by-side racing through 1 into turn number 2. I could best compare it in an odd sense, Dylan, to the opening series of turns at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, where first turn's a bit tighter and then you get a bit of a choke point in the more open turn 2.
That's a pretty good example, a pretty good reference point to work off of there, because pretty much the start of that Indianapolis GP circuit, it is quite comparable to the start here at the West Circuit for the Bend, and really most of the circuits here at the Bend, because it's a 90-degree right-hander to start with a fairly quick left-hander into a fairly quick right-hander. That's kind of what we have here, although perhaps a little bit more technical.
Yeah, this track, even though the layout that we are running at has only 12 turns, that may not seem like a lot, but this is only about 2 miles long for this configuration. So it is a busy lap for these racers. They are constantly battling something, either battling the other cars out there on the racetrack, battling the grip in the case of Aaron Van Wagner, who just went for a spin. That's heading out of turn number 3, the follow-up to that challenging opening set of corners to begin this lap. And let's see how things went wrong for him in that brilliant retro Williams scheme, the Rothman's livery. He loops it around, coming out of the turn, puts some smoke in the air, blinks in and out right at the right time. The aliens abducting him before our cameras could catch the aftermath of that spin. He's back out there on the racetrack, currently running in P18, but a lot farther down than he wanted to be. Meanwhile, up at the front, the battling has not cooled off at all. In fact, Kayla Michaelowicz has been able to jump in front of Josh Leslie. However, Leslie is still there to pounce.
Yeah, Leslie is not letting Michaelowicz get away cleanly, but there is some lap traffic, probably getting the blue flag. Gets way off track onto the grass area on the outside of that corner. Could have been a lot more sketchy than it ended up being. I thought that it was going to be a bit of a scary situation. If you're the leader of this race, then you probably were a little bit nervous, but now you have to defend on the inside, making that car as wide as possible, locks it up a little bit, and now it should be side-by-side racing action. Oh, still not clear of him was Leslie. Gives the position back to Mikowicz. What a great battle.
Whoa, no, it's not going to work. Contact made through turn number 9, and that's going to be Josh Leslie spinning out of a top spot, but Mikowicz isn't out of the woodwork. He's got rear wing damage and a meatball flag. Who's going to benefit the most from this? It's Tyrone Da Silva in the 480 car. Look at the damage on Mikowicz. He's got to struggle to even keep that car on the racetrack with only about 500 feet before he hits a pit lane entry. It was going to be a fantastic battle between those two, and it was for quite some time, but I think the two of them just bit off a little bit more than they could chew out. Maybe upon first glance put a bit more blame on Leslie. I think he should have maybe backed out of it. Side-by-side racing into turn number 9 goes about as well as my time in middle school. Not very well.
Well, the real question is, how close were they to being alongside each other once they entered turn 9? We'll be able to see that right now on this replay system. Here we have Leslie, who tries to get the crossover back again. He's not alongside completely. I would say to be alongside, you have to at least have those front tires, the front 2 tires, in line with the rear axle. It did not look that way to me on corner entry, and I think that's where you can put most of the blame on.
Yeah, it's a shame for the both of them. It's so unfortunate. I think they had a fantastic fight going on before then, but I think Leslie just a little bit over opportunistic. He saw an opportunity to get another race win, and for a driver who's been very impressive as of recent here in this series, I think it was just it was an easy mistake to make, but a costly one nonetheless. However, as a result of that, the battling for, of course, our race lead is intense, but the battling for the final podium spot is still intense as well. Bearing in mind, folks, that battle that we said was insane with a never-ending train of cars battling for P3, that has now become your battle for the race win. Tyrone Da Silva holding on to that top spot over Danush Paborji. About a second is the gap between Paborji and Christopher Eggert in the 222 car, right in front of Alex Velasco in the 777 machine. Josh Leslie, still trying to dust himself off after that drama a bit earlier on, is still there to pounce. And speaking of pouncing, there's Danush Paborji capitalizing on a moment for Tyrone Da Silva. That was through 6 and 7, and into the race lead goes Paborji.
Yeah, we're going to have a little bit more of battling from drivers we don't usually see at the very top of this podium, but right there, Paborji making it count all while, you know, he started up high in this race for a reason, and he has one podium so far, coming at the Nürburgring in race number 2, the feature race of that season. We'll see if he can translate this into success for the rest of this sprint race, this heat race, and then maybe from 10th place in the main race.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, the top 6 being the invert, I believe, as is the usual case here in the Sim Races Group F3 series. So we have to keep that in mind as we not only try and decide a winner, but decide who's going to be in the catbird seat come time for the feature race a little bit later on. The battling still going on. Danush Paborji trying to run away as Tyrone Da Silva trying to fend off a pack of cars hungry to get this spot. Christopher Eggert on the inside through turn number 7. Stuck on the outside through 8. Let's see what happens into turn number 9. He gets hung out to dry, hops the berm a bit. Over the curb he's going to go. Eggert trying desperately to jump into P2, and after about 5 turns he'll finally make it work. And now feeling a bit of pressure to Silva, and Velasco nearly going to duke it out side by side into 11.
Yeah, this is some really good action here. In a way, we should be pretty thankful that the top 3 took themselves out or were taken out in the early goings here of this sprint race, because only 5 minutes and some change remain in it. 8 laps complete. These lap times are in the 110s, 111s at its highest mark. So really fast laps here. These drivers are putting on a good show for us.
Yeah, these drivers are bringing the thunder, and I will give some love to your current fast lap of the race holder, Stephen Case. He's made his way back up to lucky spot P13. We'll have to see what he can do throughout the rest of the night and whether he can make a hard charge back up into a pretty good spot come time for the end of the feature. 3 wide, that's not going to work. Contact made. Velasco, his front wheel getting entangled into Silva's rear. That could have ended in catastrophe. Josh Leslie going to pick up the pieces in that small little tussle through 6 and 7. He jumps his way up into P5. Now De Silva having to try and chase the cars in front. He's got Varun Bali right in front of him, but then after Bali, it is rather spread out up in the front. Danush Proborgi now 1.1 seconds clear of Chris Raggard. Of course, that gap continues to fluctuate, but holding on to quite a good spot as we take a look at how Varun Bali was able to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, let's check it out right now. Bali just kind of was already there by the time that there was contact between the left front and right rear corners of those two cars. He passed, made the move by. Velasco still trying to get a little bit aggressive here, slides into this right-hand corner. It's a little bit cambered, right? It's kind of cool how you're able to sweep that car around, but if you try and put too much input into it in a very steep angle on that steering wheel, you're going to slide the rear tires a little bit. Oh, no!
No! Oh, that's Jason Cotcher, series admin, running into the back of Josh Leslie into the braking zone of turn number 6. That is going to be unfortunate for the both of them. Bad break for Leslie, who's involved in that drama with himself and Kalen Michaelwitz a bit earlier on, but things going from bad to worse at the end of the long flat-out blast out of 3, flat into the braking zone of 6. Just not able to stop it in time, running into the back. That's going to take off his front wing. That's going to give some pretty bad damage to Leslie. I believe he lost his rear wing in the midst of that. We were expecting some drama here not under the lights. In the land down under, I think would probably be the better way to say it, the correct way of saying it. Here in the bend, we're expecting some drama, Dylan, and drama we have most certainly got.
Yeah, we have most certainly gotten drama here from this heat race. It only gets me excited for when we do have the main race just shortly following this one. It doesn't always necessarily become the harbinger of things to come in that main race. However, we have seen how close these drivers can get to each other here, racing fairly, but also sometimes racing a little bit over the line, a little bit too over-aggressive, if you will. Look at this. Eggert is right there.
Yeah, I was expecting that this battle was going to be not necessarily frozen, but certainly very cool. No, Danush Proborgi has not been able to pull the gap. He hasn't been able to manage it. In fact, that gap has diminished. Chris Eggert all over the back of Danush Proborgi, side by side, as they head their way down the start-finish straightaway into turn number 1. Eggert in that 222 car. Proborgi on the inside of the 23, who's going to win out in the battle last late breakers to the turn 1 apex. It'll be Proborgi leading at the turn through 2 into 3, but I think Christopher Eggert has a really good shot to get it done. He just needs to play his cards right. We're getting into crunch time here in this race as well. I believe the white flag will be in the air, not this time by that we just saw, but next time by, and Eggert knows that. He's going to try and go for the move down the inside into turn number 6. Who wins out on this braking fight? Oh, it's close to contact. That's Proborgi running a little bit wide. Track limit's a little bit risky through there, but he's gonna keep it going. Eggert now trying to cut down to the inside through 8 into turn number 9. Eggert trying to find any way in the book to get this move done. Less than a minute on the clock, coming to the white flag this time by, and Christopher Eggert still needs to find any way to get this move done, but they have some company. Right behind is Varun Bali and Tyrone De Silva.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bali is only 4/10 away as they cross the stripe. 1 lap to go here in this sprint race. We still have the main race to follow. Side by side, Proborgi and Eggert. They're going to make this right-hand turn with Proborgi in the inside position. Makes it stick, makes it count, and look at that. Bali with the move down the inside of Eggert.
Yeah, so Eggert trying to grab the race lead a matter of a half a lap before is going to drop down to the last podium spot And look at this move here from Varun Bali. He has been so brave on the brakes, so quick on the gun. He's been able to drop everybody through the braking zones here around this racetrack. And I think he's going to try and get that done. Danush Paborji, meanwhile, Eggert and De Silva were briefly side by side in through 6 and 7. It's Eggert still holding on to P3, but because of that, it's now a 2-horse race up at the front. Varun Bali, as much as he's been good on the brakes, he's got one more opportunity to try and make this move stick, but I don't think he's close enough into turn number 11 for the last time here in the first race of the night. Paborji leads him out of the second to last turn on the crackle, down the brakes and down the gear. He's going to go. Danush Paborji about to come across the line to win this race. Varun Bali comes home right behind him. P2, Christopher Eggert walks away with the podium with Tyrone De Silva and Alex Velasco completing her top 5 in a stormer of a first race.
That was absolutely awesome. Still crossing the stripe right here. And rounding out that top 10 is Josh Corwin. Just missed out on that 9th place position by a 10th. However, Corwin will get pole position to start the main race. Let's look at this battle to the line here. And what could have been, right? For Mikowicz, who does finish in 16th there. It could have been so much different for Mikowicz, for multiple drivers in this race. You know, you got to give hats off to drivers like Stephen Case, who were able to kind of recollect themselves and find a way to still finish within that invert.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about him too much, but Stephen Case, props are due to the at one point inter-alien in the sim racers group world. They called him an alien for a very good reason. Incredibly quick racer. He was quick in the F4s, and he hit the ground running here in these F3s just a couple of seasons ago. So we'll be able to get the results loaded up in just a couple of moments time for the first race. We're in a warm-up session right now, so we have a bit of time to relax, take it easy, and catch our breath after a very dramatic and very exciting opening race of the season. So, not opening race of the season, opening race of the night. We're 5 rounds into the season, for crying out loud, and I've been on the past like 3 or 4 shows. Let's take a look at our results before I fry my brain cells anymore. It was a fantastic win for Danush Paborji. He gets a victory over Varun Bali, over Christopher Eggert, Tyrone De Silva, and Alex Velasco. Complete your top 5. A top 5, which, by the way, was covered by 2.5 seconds at the end of a 15-minute long race. Adam Duvall finishes in 6th, and now I've gone through, I believe it's the top 6 who get inverted. So that's a pretty good spot for Adam Duvall to be in. He'll be your pole sitter in the lucky number 13 car. Edgar Lau just barely misses out. I say barely, it was about 3 seconds, 2.5 to be a bit more precise, between those racers at the very end. Stephen Case, though, rousing drive from him to make it up to P8 by the very end. Thomas Brashear finishes this race in 9th, with Joshua Corwin completing her top 10. Rafael Cardenas will finish in P11. Christopher Wang in P12. Aaron Van Wagner in 13th. Kukaran Dillon in 14th. Justin Snyder in P15. Galen Mikowicz, with that damage from the incident earlier on, had a shot to win, instead walks away with P16. Jason Trantham in 17th. Diego Posada finishes in 18th place, with Adrian Lopez, Jose Navas, Josh Leslie, Jason Cotcher, Igor Grunsky, David Borden, Jacob Gein, and Max Lindlado completing our 26 drivers that were classified here at the end of this race. All of them took the start, but not all of them finished this race on the lead lap. So a little bit of time left here in warm-up, 3 minutes. I want to thank all of you for tuning into this broadcast and deciding to have slow motion broadcast and be a part of your Wednesday evening plans. Happy to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this broadcast, but we have a bit of a lull in the action, so let's take a look at how the action has been cooking points-wise, because that's always an interesting storyline to keep our eyes on. And throughout the season, Dylan, we have had no shortage of storylines, with the usually indomitable Stephen Case not really finding his firm footing throughout the season, and it has allowed a 20-point gap between Kalen Mikowicz and Stephen Case. Adds to the drama that we saw with Mikowicz running into the trouble with Leslie. Jason Green, a driver who I've covered for many moons over on the Spec Racer Board Weekend Warrior side of things here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, slotted in 3rd. Josh Leslie in 4th, Danush Paborji in P5, Chris Eggert, Jason Cotcher, Chris Wang Joshua Corwin and David Borden completing your top 10. You'll see the rest of the drivers on your screen. We'll run through them without mentioning them. But Dylan, with the drama involving Michaelitz and Case, and Jason Green not really being here, it feels like everybody in the top 5 of the points did not have a really good run in the opening race of the night.
No, and I'd say part of that is just because we saw a little bit of argy-bargy kind of showing its ugly head through that sprint race. However, the majority of the points are scored during this main feature event. So they can change how they'll feel about their night, depending on how their races go here. But obviously, things do change a little bit, right? Stephen Case, drivers like Mikulitz, they're going to have different challenges to face. And nobody is infallible in this one, right? Nobody is necessarily guaranteed to avoid contact if you want to try and win this race. You also saw some over-aggression become a part of that sprint race, and kind of took out some of the top competitors in the standings so far. So you never know what's going to happen, right? You can lose your head for one corner of the entire event, and all of a sudden that just puts the entire championship on its head. Nonetheless, you got to take care of what you can take care of. And if you're in front and you feel like you're the faster driver, well, then drive away. If you're right in behind, you feel like you're the faster driver, pick your point to make the move, right? You shouldn't necessarily try to make the move turn 1, lap 1, because you do that, you can really lose the race. You can't win the race turn 1, lap 1. You can lose it.
Yeah, and look at how quickly things went wrong for Stephen Case. He wasn't the one getting the move done. Well, he is the one getting a move put on him. He wasn't the one going for the move, and it ended poorly. Side-by-side racing off through turn number 1 here. I mentioned that it feels kind of like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's first couple of turns. I could maybe say that it's a merger of that and also Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, which the Sim Racers Group F4 series will be visiting in about 6 days' time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. So it gives you another reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the action. But I believe, unless I am very much mistaken, we have switch our attention from the warm-up session into the second race. So let's take a look at the second starting grid of the night before we head off into what's going to be a very dramatic start. Adam Duvall will start this race from the pole position. Alex Velasco going to join him on the front row. Tyrone Da Silva will start in third alongside Christopher Eggert in fourth. Varun Bali and Dinesh Praborji, your top 2. In the first race, will round out row number 3. Edgar Lau and Stephen Case making up a powerhouse row number 4. Thomas Brashear and Joshua Corwin completing your top 10. Rafael Cardenas and Christopher Wang in P11 and P12. Right behind in lucky spot P13 will be Aaron Van Wagner and Ubron Dillon alongside in 14th place. Justin Snyder, Kayla Michaelitz, Jason Trantham, Diego Posada, Adrian Lopez, Jose Navas round out your top 20 as we are already flying here with green flag racing for the second time tonight here at the Bend. And look at the even keel start for both of our drivers up at the front row. It's not over yet though. Look at Alex Velasco trying to get a move done to jump his way up into P2. So close to making contact, but they make it through clean.
Nothing better than that scene for Da Silva as he sees multiple cars going side by side all throughout the field. Now Velasco has gotten free and Duvall is under challenge by both Eggert and Bali.
Oh, and riding on board with Stephen Case, trying to pick his way through the smoke and the drama. He can get it working off well. Stephen Case looking to redeem himself after some drama in the first race of the night. Doubly so considering Kayla Michaelitz, his main championship rival, has run into difficulties and has dropped down like an anvil pushed out of a helicopter. But it was his old sparring partner from race 1, Joshua Leslie, that I just saw pulled over there at the side of the road heading down into turn number 8. Let's take a look at what happened to him.
Yeah, that is a missing nose right there. Pulls off the side, doesn't even try to get that repaired. Still was a lot of time to get that repaired and get back into the race, but not always the way you want to start lap 1. And that's pretty much race over for Mikulitz. A huge, huge problem here for one of the championship competitors, the leader in the championship here, and an awesome opportunity for somebody like Stephen Case to get back into it.
Yeah, I think Stephen Case is smelling blood in the water, but he needs to make use of this opportunity. Contact made! That's Bali and Eggert with a huge moment. That was through turn number 5. Eggert going off the circuit. I'm sure there has got to be some major damage on that car, either suspension, aerodynamic, both, or maybe even the chassis got snapped in half as a result of that. That was a huge moment, a big hip check at speed in these F3s. Both of those drivers should be counting their lucky stars that didn't turn into an airplane collision. Let's see. Oh, it was a curb on the inside of 5 that fired him off into the side of Eggert.
Yeah, goodness me, that was wild. My goodness. You know, sometimes you see drivers who are racing quite aggressively in that first race tame it down a little bit in the second race. Well, we haven't seen any of that through most of the competitors in the top 10 here tonight.
And we're not seeing the racing calm down either. This is Danush Paborji and Varun Bali. Bali was the, we'll call it the aggressor, for lack of a better term, in that moment with himself and Christopher Eggert. Eggert has dropped down like a stone thrown into a pond, and we'll take a look at one more replay of it. See it from Bali's perspective. There's the curb. Yeah, bombed out a little bit, snapped the car around. He had to check up and snap the steering wheel in the other direction. Oh! And as we were taking a look at the replay, I think it may have gone wrong again in a battle with Bali. This time it's Paborji stopped by the side of the road.
Goodness me, all the drivers that are showing some speed tonight, we're starting to see them just drop off like flies. Here's a look at the replay here, and that's a big lunge down the inside. Pushes him way off and just loses control. Is there contact? No. So that's the good thing. There was no contact, but I'd be pretty upset about that. There was a lot of runoff area there where you just kind of lost it if you are Paborji, but still, that's not necessarily the racing surface. You don't want to get pushed off there, but hey, that's the new standard in open wheel racing.
Not touching that one. But yeah, I will say, here in the Sim Racers Group world, this season has seen the introduction of new race stewards that will be taking a look at these racers in post-race review. So I have a feeling that may potentially get looked at. I think Varun Bali may have some prying eyes on him come time for the end of tonight's festivities here in round number 5. But he's not alone in that. A lot of racers have been going for the jugular throughout the night, and seeing Kukaran Dillon and Jason Cotcher scrap it out, that nearly ended in tears.
It's kind of funny. We talk about open wheel, officiating and such, and it's crazy to me still. This is completely off topic, but that Formula One still, or at least up until this year, has had the whole, as long as you make the apex and you're ahead, it's all good. So you have all this dive bombing that happens in Formula One. I'm always a fan of, if you're alongside, it's front axle and rear axle, and just don't make contact, lads.
Yeah, I think F1 stewarding has gotten a little bit overcomplicated as time has come along, but that's a subject for another day. What in the world happened there? David Borden trying to pull off a U-turn into turn number 1 and hopping over the inside curb. Shows you how deadly the curbs here are at the bend. But what in the world took place there? I think that had to have been some rather abrupt braking, resulting in maybe a rear lock potentially. Let's take a look at this. That's what I can imagine, having driven these cars as much as I have. Was there maybe contact? No. Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. And unfortunate, yet again, we saw drama in race number 1 for Max Lindelato, and unfortunately he gets caught up in stuff that's not really his fault yet again.
Yeah, that was a little bit of help there to get him turned around to make that 180, so a full 360. Nonetheless, just seems like a lot of drivers are getting involved in it when they've done nothing. They're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. As we see the snake happen, Adrian Lopez trying to make a move right now on Diego Posada into turn 1, has that inside position at front axle well alongside, now all the way in front. That's some good maneuvering on the brake pedal.
Yeah, one thing I adore about these F3 cars is you can be somewhat aggressive with them. You don't need to walk around on eggshells with them, but the car will bite and bite quite hard whenever you do something that's a little bit screwy in these race cars. I talk at length about how this F3 car, the Dallara F3 here on iRacing, this was the F312. This was the second to last generation of F3 machinery of this variety before in 2018 and 2019 as part of the FIA and the general motorsports scenes. Simplification of the open wheel junior formula ladder. They unfortunately removed this this style of car, which I think is a darn shame. These cars were so fun to see in real life. They're awesome in the sim. It can't really match the same vibe of an F3, and even though F3 still exists in many forms in real life, I still think these cars are going to be my love for many, many moons to come. One driver that's going to be loving it. That was a fantastic move, sweeping around the outside for Jose Navas. It was himself and Diego Posada swapping around. Posada nearly swapping around end over end. He's going to get overtaken by Igor Grunsky and Chris Regard, and he may be at risk of losing a spot to Danush Borgia here too.
Yeah, wow. Look at this. There's almost some three-wide action. A little touch
Yeah!
onto the sausage curbs and just splits the difference right there. These two drivers, Borgia, Eggert almost got into the spinning. Who was that? Was that? I couldn't quite tell who did get that spin. However, you know, I feel like it's not the first time tonight we've seen the right side tires in that set of corners hit that sausage curb, kind of shoot up to the outside. Okay, it was Grunsky.
And yeah, as you said, Dylan, kind of hopping the curb a little bit, and oh, he gets clobbered once more, trying to figure out who that was that ran into him. I believe that may have been Jacob Guinan, the number 64 car that pile drove into that incident. But the curb strike once again here at the bend. I'm surprised we didn't really talk about him too much, but I think the curbs have probably been they've been the ones that have pushing these drivers to hell and back the most.
Well, you know, you gotta try and avoid the sausage portion of the curbs as much as you can. I mean, that's a very appetizing corner. You see a lot, Maunz, we see smoke. You see a lot of asphalt and pavement right there, but it's not the racing surface, right? So all these drivers are utilizing that corner as a place to make moves and kind of just push the other drivers out wide. And that all starts with how they approach that corner and how they approach that sausage curve, right? There's a lot that can change your trajectory through the corner, and it all starts when you actually turn in.
So as all this drama has been going on with the curbs, I'm sure it will continue in the next 15 minutes, Stephen Case has been able to jump into the race lead. So after the drama befalling him at the start of race number 1, he's clawed his way back through the running order, started this race in 8th, and has now jumped into that top spot. It has been a rousing recovery from Stephen Case, and for the driver who was maybe a little bit worried after the opening lap drama and his main championship rival of Kayla Michaelwitz running in a top spot and briefly in the lead, Case has been able to rebound in a huge way.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and if Case is able to hold on to this half-second plus advantage that he's got right now, it's going to have to be for another 14 minutes and some change. Easier said than done, right? Tyrone De Silva is right in the slipstream. If he can get a few nice sets of corners here, he's going to be right back onto the gearbox of that Stephen Case blue machine.
Yeah, so keeping our eyes on this battling going on between Case and Tyrone De Silva, as he doesn't really battle with Case, but just tries to battle to hold on to that spot. Taking a look now at the drama that befell Kayla Michaelwitz. Heading down to turn number 3, contact made, and unfortunately a little bit of iRacing blue kind of yanking that car around like a puppet on a string, and into the gravel trap he is going to go. Huge damage on Michaelwitz already. Had a meatball flag as a result of all that. Trying to figure out who that was. Actually went for the move. That may have been either Jason Trantham or Jason Cotcher, but you can don't take that as the gospel from me. But either way you slice it, Michaelwitz running it very early, and that is going to affect his championship bid quite a lot. We're only 5 races into this season, but you know, there's a 12-round season, so we do have to talk about the championship permutations quite early.
Yeah, 100%, and we're already a third of the way through the season, so seeing the competitors, right, the contenders and the pretenders, as is like to say, is kind of where we are at. And right there's a spin. I think that was Cardenas. Oh, rough one there for the Sim Racers group, man, in that 92 machine. It looked like it was just on his own, but yeah, this is the start of where we start to see who's going to be competing for this championship by the time everything is all said and done.
Yeah, and who's going to be the one to try and challenge the throne, the rightfully earned throne, but throne nonetheless, of Stephen Case. Oh, and that's Rafael Cardenas. Unfortunate spin heading out of the second to last turn. Very easy to loop it around heading out of these turns. These F3 cars can be forgiving, but as I said a few moments ago, when they bite, they can bite hard, and you will not be very happy when this car does bite back, as that's another spin. This time it's Jose Navas. Be careful on the rejoin there, Jose. That's heading off through turn number 6 and 7. I think he maybe got a rejoin without any further incident, although he has lost down spots to Borden, and Posada is now losing one to Gain potentially. Posada now with the sideways snap. Oh, be careful on the rejoin. Oh, no.
Oh, man. This track is really chewing up some of these drivers, spitting them back out. We're going to get a look at the replay here. And so far, so good, but you know it's going to be coming up right there. Just gets into the grass. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, that could have been really bad with that rejoin, but right in front. Okay, that rejoin wasn't great, but also I have a hard time saying that it shouldn't have been avoided.
Yeah, no, I think there was only so much that Diego Posada could have done at that point in time. The grass was on his tires. He's probably skidding around like a declawed cat climbing up an igloo, so you can't blame him too much for being not necessarily in control of his vehicle and the other car behind, kind of misjudging the situation. It's split-second decisions, though, here in these race cars. We can take a look at the replays all we want, but you never know what's going to go on behind the wheel unless you're in the mind of some of these racers. And as somebody who's spent over half of it, well, not over half of it. Oh, Corwin! That's a spin off through turn number 1. That's going to see him maybe drop out of the top 5. Yes, it will. Edgar Lau going to overtake him, and Adam Duvall also going to pounce as well. Oh, and that's a collision right in front. Trying to figure out who in the world that was. Not Igor Grunsky. That may have potentially been, hearing that it was Cardenas and Posada. Yeah, it looked kind of like the two cars. Oh, don't tell me it's a case of deja vu. Oh, Posada and Cardenas linked together. That right there is a case of the iRacing glue if ever I've seen it.
This race has been catastrophic for so many drivers involved in it tonight. I mean, Grunsky, of course, we've seen him have his issue earlier in this one. Pretty much, if you're in the bottom 10 or so in this race, you've had issues tonight. That's pretty much been the story of it. We're only around 40 seconds past the point of race 1's ending time, so we're in extended territory here. These drivers have not had to keep their heads on straight for 25 straight minutes here tonight. Most of them haven't had their heads on straight for 15 minutes tonight. However, there is a clear hierarchy in terms of the fastest drivers in the field. And I would say both fastest and most consistent are all in the top 4.
Yeah, they've been the ones keeping it clean and smooth, although there has been some drama involving pretty much everybody up and down the field. I don't think anybody has been completely immune to the drama. We've seen it go down with everybody, whether you be whether you've been battling for spots inside the top 10, spots outside the top 20, a podium, win, it doesn't really matter. Everybody has run into some drama, seeing as well with believe that is Jason Trantham giving a bit of a hard time to Aaron Van Wagner through the lapping process. He's one lap down, as I just alluded to there. We'll say iRacing does have it a little bit interesting, I believe, where you can fight it a bit on the road courses when you go one lap down. After that, you can start to you can't really fight it too hard. You just need to let everybody go by, but not a lot of gamesmanship going on there. Well, some good gamesmanship there. Maybe not the best maneuver in terms of making friends with Aaron Van Wagner. Do want to say, as we get farther along in this race, the battles have not cooled off at all. Here's one with Jacob Gein and David Borden. This for P16 at the present moment. Just want to quickly say, unrelated from all the racing here, got pop-up from the web service CCleaner, which has been on a downward spiral for years and has now officially gone off the rail. If I hit the X on this and it pops up CCleaner either way, I'm going to uninstall by the end of the night. Let's see. God dang it. Okay.
Well, we just missed another spin happening right on front. Was that Guyton? I couldn't quite tell. I saw Guyton was dropping very quickly right there. And in that 64, isn't that the default number in iRacing? There's a bit of a spin on his own. No contact? Good.
It's been a wild one. I think that's the only way that we could describe it. It's been a wild one here at the Bend. Expected some chaos when the series went down under, and chaos we have most certainly gotten as Joshua Corwin tried to fight back after Christopher Wang got a move put on him through the opening series of bends. He nearly went for the spot, but I think that would have been a bit of an opportunistic dive. I'm getting the hiccups at the worst time. I've had to call so many spins and my body's starting to reject it.
That's an understandable problem to have, Ron. I mean, look at the chaos here.
Yeah, it's been a wild one. Everyone trying to get a grips to this racetrack, and I think the main reason why that is the case is just because this track is just doesn't get a lot of love on iRacing. Even though I said it was newer, and that it still is, but has been around on iRacing for too terribly long. I think it's around for about 2-3 seasons, maybe. I don't know. My perception of time disappeared the second I graduated high school back in 2023. So I really do not know what day it is, what time it is. Doesn't really matter. But this racetrack, even though it has been around on the service for a couple of seasons now, people still don't really run around here.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, completely off topic of how often people run here. Do you see all the Adelaide signs across the wall on the inside right there? Been seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the Bend is around 105 kilometers away from the city of Adelaide. So it's in the same state in Australia, all in South Australia, that is. You know, when it's such a large country as Australia is, 105 kilometers is not very far away. So it does make sense for Adelaide to have a bunch of sponsorship on the walls here. But, you know, I don't know my Australian geography all that well. So Google Maps is helping me out here.
Yeah, that is my absolute favorite friend. And I have grown to appreciate Google Maps quite a significant amount. Had some interesting experiences, shall we say, back before my dad really had like a fully like modern smartphone, like pre-2017 when he got his second to last phone. Yes, he had the same phone from 2017 up until last year when it finally gave up the ghost. I say this is the same man that was running on Windows XP until about a year ago as well. So he always gets the most out of technology, which I can very much so respect. But on one of my first trips out to the SCCA Solo Nationals in Lincoln, Nebraska back in 2016, I was trying to find the other hotel that we were staying at in South Bend, Indiana, right below Notre Dame. And The GPS that we were using, that I will not name, but it is a rather popular GPS brand even today that usually makes like dash cams and all that stuff. Any sort of like technological accessory
You're not
that
harming
you may need
anyone,
for your
right?
car. No, I'm not harming anybody at all, but I will say I did want to throw this GPS out the window when it could not recognize the existence of South Bend, Indiana, and it also didn't know how to get to Pocono Raceway. It also screeched like an irate cat. And then we finally started using Google Maps directions, which was great, apart from the fact that Google Maps wasn't really fine-tuned at the time. One time, going down to Washington, D.C., it made us go off the highway, take a lap around a business park, and rejoin the highway exactly where we got off.
You know, it sounds like this was harming you.
Oh yeah, it was harming me indeed. Now I actually have 2 hats of that brand that I got at the SCCA Solo Nationals in Lincoln, Nebraska that I think I was planning on burning until I realized that the hats were actually very, very comfortable. Good baseball caps that I still have in my esteemed collection to this very day. But before we do any sort of corporate slander here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, which not touching any of that. We're running out of time here in this race, still only about 2 minutes and change left to go, and the battling's still intense. Take this, for instance, with Duval and Wang swapping spots as they head their way downtown to turn number 1. Will it be a spot from Christopher Wang, or will it be Adam Duval holding on to P6? Looks like it's going to be Duval getting the upper hand in that battle with time ticking down.
Yeah, wow, that was a really good set of moves right there. That were just one move that we saw happen within the top 10. You know, whenever I see Thomas Brashear's name, I only think of Thomas Brashear, the former hockey enforcer. I don't know if it's just me on that one.
I think Mr. Wilkie will get that reference in the production booth, but I am.
He does. He does.
I am not knowing.
Oh, what happened right there? Paborgi just watched as he let through Adrian Lopez and only got it right back because Lopez, I mean, he was on a collision course for the gearbox of Paborgi's car. Now Lopez is engrossed in a battle with Christopher Eggert. Eggert, who, gosh, we expected to see him up fighting for a top 5 spot in both races tonight. This really did not happen here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be happy seeing the Bend Motorsports Park appear in their rearview mirror at the end of this race. Stephen Case, I think he's going to have mixed feelings. You know, after the somewhat heartbreaking way that the first race started, he has been able to keep his nose in the grindstone, cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter, and is about a lap and a third away from winning once again here in the series, and winning for the first time in quite a while too. 20 seconds left on the clock, so I think it will be borderline, but I believe he will be coming to take the white flag this time by as he heads his way out of the second to last turn. You know, this may be a little close. We're coming down to it. About 5 seconds left on the clock. There is the line. It was 2 seconds to the spare, but Stephen Case now officially on that white flag lap.
Yeah, just a dominant performance from Stephen Case, up 7 positions in this one. Once he took the lead with well over half the race to go, he's just not looked back. He has expanded that advantage over Tyrone De Silva, who he himself has had a quite calm race. Quite a nice run in second, trying to hold off Velasco, a 2.5 second gap back to him. So all should be good for a P2 finish for De Silva. Great set of races for him.
Yeah, it's been an awesome night for Tyrone De Silva, a good night for Stephen Case. Alex Velasco should get some love as well, holding on to P3 at the moment. Been a fantastic drive from him. So too for Edgar Lau running in P5, and of course Varun Bali holding on to 4th. A lot of people that we don't usually talk about here in the series have had some fantastic runs. Other drivers that we talk about quite a lot have been struck by their fair share of falling anvils throughout the night, but it's usually the man that we always talk about being the dominating force in this series, grabbing yet another win. There's a checkered flag for Stephen Case. He's victorious here in the feature race of the Bend. Tyrone De Silva going to come home in P2. Velasco rounds out your podium in third. It's a P4 for Varun Bali. It's going to be a P5 for Edgar Lau. But I think the big winner out of all this has got to be Case.
100%. You know, Mikowicz way back down the order. He's way out of this race. If you recall, he kind of pulled aside quite a bit ago. So, I mean, this is going to be maximum points in race number 2. That's why we were talking about you can completely change your tune on how tonight went depending on how the feature race goes. That's exactly what we're seeing for the 243 machine.
Yeah, and even though things went sour for him in the first race of the night, Stephen Case did everything that he needed to do, played the playbook just as well as anyone could, and it's a win for him here in the race. Drama with Mikowicz, and a bizarre snap for Jacob Guyton. That's the quickest I've ever seen a driver spin on a straightaway in my life, but we'll refrain from touching any more on that. I believe Max Lotto will be the last driver to come across the line. While I give some love to Lotto. He's won already in the SRG F3 series. Got the opportunity to cover him over there over the past couple of weeks, and looking forward to seeing what things may have in store for the driver of the 12 car. Moving along here in the history of this series. Oh, he's got to lock it up on pit entry, trying to take the checkered flag, which I believe he now officially has. He's going to be marked as actually being out of this race. He's already down in P20 anyways after some drama. That wasn't really his fault midway through this race. But as we see the drivers lining up on the start-finish line, nose to nose, to get some podium photos, let's take a look at the race results here tonight for round number 5 of the Sim Racers Group F3 Championship here in Season 1 of 2026. And Stephen Case grabbing the W, Tyrone De Silva in P2, Alex Velasco in third with Varun Bali and Edgar Lau rounding out your top 5. Adam Duvall is classed in P6 with Christopher Wang finishing right behind in 7th. Thomas Brashear in P8, Joshua Corwin in 9th. Series admin Jason Cotcher will round out your top 10. That's Danush Baborji from there. Christopher Eggert behind in 12th. It's Adrian Lopez in P13, Aaron Van Wagner behind in 14th, David Borden in P15, Jose Navas classed in 16th at the end of this race, Igor Grunsky, in P17, Jacob Guyton rounds out your top 18. Just a few more drivers left to go through. It's Kulkaran Dillon, Max Lotto, Jason Trentham, Diego Posada, Rafael Cardenas, Justin Snyder, Kayla Mikowicz, and Josh Leslie rounding out 26 drivers classified here at the end of the bend here in F3 competition for the start of 2026. Well, Dylan, it looks like we have some drivers looking to have a chat with us, so I'll let you do the honors of having the first interview and ask who you want to have a chat with first.
Let's look at Thomas Brashear. Why not?
Alrighty.
Thomas, you got a copy?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm right here.
Right. Well, hey, it was quite an intense battle for you, it felt like, for a large part of the race tonight. You did finish 8th in the main event. Just take us through it. What's it racing this track like?
Well, practice for the heat was rough. I felt like I just had no grip on there. I think I started like the sprint in like 22nd. And I was like, I'm not putting the fastest times, and I'm just going to kind of mind my business. And then as the sprint went on, I kind of started dialing in the track, and I made up from like 22nd to like 9th. So I was like, okay, like once I got into that flow state of the main event, I was like, I'm just going to focus on myself. Don't try to battle anyone in the beginning. Keep your tires good. And then towards the end, I was able to get one extend down the main straight and get one position back, which I was very happy with.
Yeah, I feel like this track, I'm not sure how much carnage you necessarily saw in front of you and in behind you, but there was a lot of contact and pieces of the cars scattered all around here. But I do want to talk a little bit about that. I think it was turn 9 here. It was that right-hand corner with the sausage curb around the exit. Kind of had a lot of asphalt runoff area. Did you what did you feel about trying to make moves down there? Because that was a popular spot for everybody, but that sausage curb really caught people out.
Yeah, so my spot, let me say my spotter was just saying incident ahead, incident behind, person on your left, person on your right. And that turn 9 one I was like, if anyone's going to try to go down on the inside of me, I was like, I'm gonna let people give their space. I think with the introduction of penalty points and everything like that, I was like, I don't want to be too aggressive. I just kind of want to mind myself. From watching a couple of my buddies' point of views, I saw a decent amount of carnage going into there. So I can only imagine for your guys' sake that it was a lovely thing to watch.
It certainly was a lot of fun to watch tonight. All right, give your shout outs. Who would you like to thank for tonight's race?
Jason. After the sprint, I went into his area and I was like, hey, I'm up in front with the big guns, kind of a little nervous, what should I do? And he's like, just drive your race. He's like, stay consistent, let people crash in front of you or behind you and do your thing. So I followed his instructions and I was able to maintain my position and gain a spot. So I give him the props here and the shout out.
Brilliant. All right. Congratulations on that top 10 finish in the main race tonight at the Bend, Thomas. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, Ron, it's now up to you.
The decisions. I am looking through, trying to figure out who I want to have a chat with. I want to speak to a driver that I think had a very solid night all around. Good results in both races. Wasn't able to grab a W in either of them, but overall was very quick indeed. Actually, I say that he didn't grab a W in either of them, but it doesn't really matter if you don't grab a win, because if you showed the pace that he had a P4 and a P2, you can be happy about the night. Tyrone De Silva joining us here in the booth. Tyrone, welcome in. Well done on a very good night behind the wheel here at the Bend. How about you talk us through it from your perspective?
I guess I'll start with the sprint. That was very stressful. I don't even remember all the things that happened there, so it's just a lot of things happening from lap 1 to almost the end for me. But fortunately we survived, which I feel like is the goal of the sprint, is to not die, so you can have a okay position for the main race. But I think I'll definitely go back and watch that a few times, because I think there was some good racing throughout the top, 10. Yeah, and then for the main race, I think I don't know how I got the gap on Velasco, I think, or I think he was in P2 on lap 1, but I mostly just kind of ran my pace for the main race.
Yeah, worked out fantastically for you, walking away with it was a P4 in race number 1, the survival of the fittest in the sprint, and then P2 here in the second race of the night, finishing runner-up to the usually indomitable force that is Stephen Case. Now, I don't believe we've seen you show up too consistently throughout this season, but I do want to ask you about the next round of the championship at Suzuka. A bit of a different test to this racetrack, a bit twistier, a bit tighter. So what are your thoughts heading to that track in 1 week's time?
Oh, I love Suzuka. It's one of my favorite tracks. I just like that it has a lot of high-speed stuff, so that's always fun. I think these formula cars are kind of more interesting when you have some high-speed stuff, and I think it also kind of some of the high-speed stuff, if you're overdriving, can also kind of overheat your tires. So I feel like that should be interesting.
Yeah, and really looking forward to seeing what style of racing the Suzuka circuit brings in 1 week's time. I'm sure it's going to be exciting, and hope to see you back out there on the racetrack, bringing the thunder like you did here tonight, Tyrone. Thank you for joining us in the booth, and we'll let you give your own thank yous before we let you go and celebrate.
Thanks, Jason, again for putting on this league, and thanks everyone for showing up and racing each week and kind of elevating the racing. It definitely has like up-leveled my own, I guess, on-track conduct and also skill. So I benefited from it massively, and it's also like a great goal to kind of keep every week in iRacing. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we always love to hear the stories of yourself and many other drivers in the SRG world getting into iRacing through this community and blossoming from there. Tyrone, thank you for joining us in the booth. Congratulations on the second place run in the second race here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you out there at the racetrack at Suzuka in 1 week's time.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
And that right there was Tyrone De Silva, our P2 finisher in the second race here tonight. And another driver had a very good night is Varun Bali, who will be joining us in the broadcast booth in just a couple of moments' time. Some good results from him, even if there was a little bit of chaos that followed him around. Not necessarily stuff that he created, but drama nonetheless. Varun Bali now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Varun, welcome in. Pretty solid night for you here at the Bend. How about you talk us through it from your side behind the wheel?
One sec, I can barely hear you. Could you repeat that, please?
How was it out there here at the Bend? It looked like a pretty good night for you.
Yeah, the only practice I had was maybe like 15-20 minutes after last weekend's or last Wednesday's race. So got some laps in. I didn't race it last season, but I noticed it's like a rhythm track. It's really flat, but it has elevation, which is kind of odd. But it was a fun race. Started P10 for the sprint. Made my way up to like P6. Got into like a little incident with someone spinning in front of me. Went down to like 12th or 13th. Somehow made my way back to second, which I don't know how that happened or what happened in front of me, but I'll take it. And then in the feature, it was just kind of just putting laps in, trying to put pressure on Alex. Fortunately, he didn't make a mistake, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, either way you slice it, man, it was still a very strong showing for you here at the Bend. Want to ask you about the next round of the championship, though, Suzuka in 1 week's time. What are your thoughts heading there?
It's a track I've done in F3 and F4. I love the place. It's one of those like confidence tracks. Last time we were there, I think I qualified P4, but then I threw it away at the Degners on my own lap 1. So ideally we don't do that again, but I'm looking forward to Suzuka. It's one of my better tracks to drive.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the racing there in 1 week's time, Varun. We'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs, though, before we let you go and celebrate the results here today.
Yeah, shout out to Jason. I'm one of the few people that's in-house still. So shout out to Jason for setting me up with a rig. Shout out to you guys for the broadcast and the YouTube streams. And then, yeah, shout out to everyone else in here. It's a fun atmosphere all the time.
And I will say, as somebody who gets to pop in and do these shows occasionally, either from the production booth or here in the commentary booth, it's always an absolute treat. Varun, thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done on the results here at the Bend, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Suzuka next time out.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
And that right there was Varun Bali joining us here in the booth. I think I could tell that he was calling in from the SRG HQ there in California. You can hear a little bit of commotion there in the background. But let's have one last chat with Adrian Lopez. Want to ask his side of things here tonight. Quick interview with a driver who we don't really get the opportunity to talk to too much here on these shows. Adrian, welcome into the booth. And yeah, I want to ask you about this race here at the Bend. Looked like a pretty challenging one, at least from our perspective here in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, that was something else. That was a lot of effort, and I feel like a lot of effort for very little gain. It's a fun track. Once you get a good flow, it's really enjoyable. But when you're fighting with everybody else that's similarly skilled, it can get quite annoying because now you're fighting for the ability to keep it on the track as well. And yeah, this one kind of murders your tires with those high speed turns.
Yeah, it looked like a very difficult race from start to finish, but you managed it well, got some good results, and kept it clean for the most part out there on the track, which was a heck of a lot easier said than done for the field throughout the night. I want to ask you about the next race of this championship, though, as we head off to Suzuka. Probably going to be a bit more damaging on the tires, but that track is a bit more well-known, at least when it comes to open wheel spheres.
Yeah, I mean, it super challenging to keep it clean. A couple little mishaps here and there with people being in the way, but it was still fun to be really close up to people and still have respect for racing, especially between like Jose and Chris Hager and stuff. But I am looking forward to Suzuka. Suzuka is a favorite of mine, so I'm definitely gonna go into it with a more positive attitude than the Bend.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack for that race, Adrian. But before we let you go and get some practice in for that Suzuka round in 1 week's time, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Yeah, shout out to Jose, Chris. Also even Cotcher too a little bit there. Really fine line racing, really tight racing. Respectful at the same time. You love to see it and see it get better. So shout out to those guys. Just keep it nice and tidy.
And thank you as well for joining us here in the broadcast booth, Adrian. And we'll see you next time out Suzuka.
Yep, likewise, guys. Thank you.
And that right there was Adrian Lopez, P13 finisher in the second race of the night. And Dylan, as we said a lot throughout the race, we were expecting the Bends to bring some chaos, and chaos was brung.
Yeah, 100%. Those were two entertaining races. The second race didn't necessarily have a battle for the lead about halfway through onto the end of the race, but I still enjoyed it, right? We had a lot of racing all throughout that main feature. The sprint race was chaotic from start to finish, and genuinely, I hope we get to announce some more races at the Bend. What a good track. The West Circuit is pretty solid for this.
Yeah, and the many configurations of this track can be a little bit confusing, but I think they've got their own little unique quirks and features that can put on some good racing. You just gotta find the right car, and you gotta find the right competitors. And here in the Sim Racers Group F3 Series, these drivers get better week in and week out. We hope to see you for the next round of the championship at Suzuka, and also the next round of the F4 Series coming up next Tuesday at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And hey, speaking of, we've got a lot of action coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. This upcoming weekend, we've got you booked with the Formula V Weekend Warriors running at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The Spec Racer Ford's going to be running there as well. It is in Montreal, just to be super clear. Same racetrack, and always some good fun with the Weekend Warriors folks. Some of the same racers out there as well. XSLR, meanwhile, is going to be running at the Daytona Road Course, the site of the last round of this championship, at least before tonight, with the Liberty Bell returning here to SMB, this time with a venture off into a slight unknown with the freshly refreshed GR86s here on iRacing. That'll be at VIR for the latest round of that championship. Just 24 hours ago here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we got a new season of the American Muscle Series kicked off. It was at Imola with your usual voice of the Sim Racers Group F3 Series, Mr. JR Gregory, on the call for that. I want to wish JR the best. He came down with an illness a little bit later on, stepping into the booth a little bit late here this evening. SRG F4, as I said, going to be at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, with the F3s making their appearance at the Suzuka circuit on Wednesday, January 21st at 10 p.m. Eastern. And as always, you'll be able to catch all of the action week in and week out here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And if you want to stay tuned for all the action, how about hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. The Bend did not disappoint, and hopefully to all of you tuning into this broadcast, you enjoyed the action just as much as we enjoyed calling it. But for myself, Ron Maunz, Dylan Coyle joining me in the broadcast booth, and Joshua Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.